Was it really the Gothenburg scene that started melodic death metal? Let's find out. Welcome back to the heaviest show in the universe. My name is Kane Irvine, and if you like in-depth metal album reviews, discussion, and theory videos, then go down below and sauce me one of these bad boys. Smash that subscribe button and be sure to stick around until the end where we answer the question, what was actually the first melodic death metal album? So when we think of melodic death metal, we immediately think of the epic trio of albums that launched around 1995 to 1996. And of course, I'm speaking about The Gallery by Dark Tranquility, The Jester Race by In Flames, and Slaughter of the Soul by At the Gates, which was the first of these three to come out in October of 1995. Slaughter of the Soul is often credited with pioneering this genre of death metal that took the most brutal and intricate music and added a poppy, hooky, melodic tinge to it, making it more digestible to a wider audience of people. This album is stated by many in the metal community, including yours truly, to have set the stage for so many metal bands, generations of metal bands coming afterwards to create heavier, more melodic music. And I recently made a video on it that you can check out right here. But there is another classic that us metalheads sometimes forget was incredibly heavy while also being melodic and pushing the boundaries of death metal in a different direction. So let's head west from Gothenburg to the UK, the birthplace of grindcore. See, even though Carcass started off as a grindcore band, they started putting more death metal into their music as early as Symphonies of Sickness, and especially on the album Necroticism in 1991. This started them off on their journey to become absolute legends, and when Heartwork dropped in 1993, it turned the metal community on its head. They had created an absolute masterpiece of death metal that even to this day is regarded as legendary. But it sounded like super hooky, a lot more melodic, and a lot different from this. Or this. That was happening in the death metal scene at the time. It's still death metal for sure, but there was a little tinge in it that we didn't quite know how to put our finger on and name. When we go back and listen to Heartwork, people in this day and age, they love to label it as melodic death metal. And how does it sound compared to Slaughter of the Soul as a melodic death metal album? Does it truly encompass what we would come to associate with bands like Children of Bodom, Arch Enemy, and The Haunted later on? We often describe melodeath as having higher shrieked vocals than death metal, but incorporating the same speed and heaviness with more melodic and hookier songwriting. Think of how Countdown to Extinction made thrash metal more poppy or melodic or stadium sounding, and that's what melodic death metal did for death metal. This album definitely has that style to it. I mean, there's so many instances where you can bob your head and groove along, but it still has that brutality that defines death metal. It still has that intricacy that defines death metal even more so than before. You can definitely hear the melodic influences here as the hooks and the rhythms are much different than they ever sounded on, especially Symphonies of Sickness, but even on Necroticism, their album before this in 1991. In fact, there may be too much pure death metal in here to call it a melodic death metal album. Compared to Slaughter of the Soul, which sounds like this. And the same can be said for Symbolic by Death, which is often also credited with influencing the melodic death metal scene as well as the technical death metal scene, but there's way more tech death in here and standard death metal than there ever is melodic death metal. When I listen to all these albums side by side, I see Heartwork and Symbolic as more of a Seven Churches or Rain in Blood compared to Slaughter of the Soul's scream bloody gore. It definitely had some tinges of melodic riffing and harmonies that we would come to know and love that came out of the Gothenburg scene in 95 and 96, but it's still way more of a death metal album than a melodic death metal album, especially compared to anything that came out of Sweden at that time. So was Heartwork the first melodic death metal album? Nah. It definitely has some elements of what would later be called melodic death metal, but that honor goes to Slaughter of the Soul, no doubt. And Slaughter of the Soul came out 2 weeks before The Gallery, so technically it takes its place. But what do you think? Do you think that Heartwork deserves more credit as the first melodic death metal album? And if you think so, let me know down below what I missed and why you think that way. If you liked the video, don't forget to go ahead and sauce me one of these bad boys down below. Smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time on the heaviest show in the universe. Long live metal.